So, if you follow me anywhere else on social media, you'll likely know me for one big reason. And for those old and new, no matter where from, to clear up the suspicions, yes, I'm the Dirty Bubble guy. What does that mean? How did I get here? Why is that such a monumental title for me as an artist that often, no joke, when I first meet people online, in voice chats even, their eyes widen in recollection and they just utter, "Oh, you're the Dirty Bubble guy." SpongeBob is such a universally integral show within pop culture, and it began airing so long ago that it didn't need to form what we know as a modern fandom to gain popularity. But did you know that it still has one? Yep, we've got ships, AUs, fanfics, it's a great time over here. I say we because I've been a part of it for many years. So, something unique about this fandom is that since it's so compact, the artists often have a character or two they hyperfixate on and supply the fandom with content of. And if you're neurodivergent, you know that whoever it is isn't really a choice. The heart wants what it wants, for better or for worse. I love this part of the fandom, because you get to see cute, fun content for characters that often aren't really delved into in an episodic comedy show. I will always love the clause that any character ever will resonate with someone out there. The human population is so big, and with all those walking billions of variables, it's just bound to happen. For me, the characters I championed became Man Ray and the Dirty Bubble. They're to this day my OTP. How out of all fictional ships did this become my favorite? Well, let's go back to the dawn of my little obsession. As a child, I of course loved SpongeBob, and still do. I liked Man Ray and Dirty Bubble enough. Anytime they showed up, they were consistently funny and charming. But around my teens, from learning more about queer media and culture, and even discovering that I was in some way queer, I lightheartedly noted to myself, Man Ray and the Dirty Bubble are kinda gay. I thought it was pretty funny at first because these two goofballs behaving like a couple outside of villainy was just super entertaining and appealing to me. As I rewatched my favorite SpongeBob episodes, the idea of the two kept floating back to me. I would start drawing them doing silly stuff together, like clothes shopping and talking on the phone, but it became harder and harder for me to come up with new ideas because Dirty Bubble is just a bubble. Poses say a lot about a character, as do expressions, able to communicate emotions and tell visual stories. But with him being virtually unable to emote with his body in illustrations, I was getting stumped. There were only so many ways I could frame Man Ray around him to make a piece interesting. So I decided to do my own spin on Dirty Bubble. Behold, the Eliminator! If you don't know, a GIJINKA is a popular character design subgenre where people take characters that aren't humanoid and anthropomorphize them, giving them limbs, skin, and clothes. It's a Japanese term meaning humanization, and became very popular in otaku circles, tracing back to origins in 1982. I do a lot of them. I opted to make a fully human version of him, and decided to go with a chubby, bumbling mad scientist motif, as it fit well with his personality. I unfortunately couldn't figure out the face though, so I instead decided to do an in-between of anthropomorphic features. He would stay a bubble, but be given limbs, separated human anatomy, and clothes. In canon, he has no clothes, because bubble, so I just left him bare, and instead gave him a brown, tattered and torn cape, with the top part reminiscent of his pointy, waggly mouth. And bam! This was my first GIJINKA design of the Dirty Bubble. I drew him and Man Ray like this all throughout junior and senior years of high school, and garnered a lot of love and a lot of hate for it, mainly fired at how I drew Dirty. It was a lot of people being mad that I drew the literal bubble as a fat guy, so there's that. I'm not gonna lie, it felt like a second coming out sometimes, just telling people that I loved them, sheepishly brushing aside my mountains of ship art. I also wasn't quite as good with proportions as I am now, and it may have made him look a bit more jank than I realized. Sorry. My artist's eye is always evolving, after all, even today. As an artist, you just never stop learning. But I think the biggest bit of backlash that stuck out to me was that my depiction was, and is, out of character. This is kind of ironic to me because arguably, I know more about this character than any normal, sane person. Yes, I am playing this card, and can confidently tell you who I interpret him as would be perfect within the loose, wacky SpongeBob canon. I mean, hey, as episodic chaotic and inconsequential as it is, it still has rules. And like a lot of the characters in the modern cast, I think they may have missed the point with this character. Hence why you only see him as maybe a flat, uninteresting, or simple villain. But frankly, I see things differently. So let's talk. Talk evil! The Dirty Bubble is first seen in the Season 1 finale. Meaning there's cells of him somewhere. Where are they? I want one. And he's described as Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy's #1 arch nemesis. That's bonkers to me. To think he's that high of a threat to these two is really cool, actually. Right away, him being #1 means he has some form of credibility in the villain world, and doesn't let anyone boss him around. His main objective here when he sees the semi-retired heroes is to trap them within his awesome surface tension, and I guess just shake them around and torment them. Fair enough, might lead to evil head trauma. It isn't until he's brought cowering in fear by his comedic weakness, a sharp pencil, that he's popped out of existence with a loud bang, little to no fanfare. Right away, this one introduction scene establishes a lot. He's a force to be reckoned with when he gets his way, and at the same time, a jokester who's gleeful in his villainous pursuits. It isn't until his life is inadvertently threatened that he retreats and starts panicking. Actually, now that I think about it more, the reaction he has here is really insightful. Dirty doesn't know anything about SpongeBob, calling him a sponge of mystery. SpongeBob tells him he's a huge fan, establishing he's not a hero, but once he pulls out the pencil, his scared reaction feels like the villain bit has been broken. This is like if someone pulled an actual gun on an actor during a fight scene. He immediately stops playing along. It's great. He believes him for who he is and fears for his fragile life. From then on, his villainous disposition is established to be juxtaposed with his fragile mortality. He's more than happy to get by with pulling pranks and schemes, and flies away before he's in any real danger. Ever since Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy retired, ever since heroes and villains have become a thing of the past, stakes have gotten way lower. He doesn't care about taking over the world, or even some kind of tri-state area. He just lives in the present. His state as a bubble that could pop at any moment forces him to live in the present. Villainy, whether conscious or subconscious, is all he wants to do, even when surrounded by comfortable domesticity. He has no alter ego to fall back on. None of them do, actually. So he just lives day by day with what he has, making the most out of the bombastic mayhem only he can manifest. Okay, so how does he pair with other characters? What do other villains think of him?
We're not supposed to touch that stuff. We're not supposed to touch that either. We are really not supposed to touch those, sir. Good people have no use for weapons such as those!
The only thing I'm good at is being evil. So long!
Man Ray over the decades has been admittedly more difficult to pin down in terms of personality. In his debut episode, we learn that he's conniving and bold, yet short-tempered and cynical. His big theatrical, villainous ambitions are at odds with the hustle and bustle of modernity. And ever since Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy's retirement, there's an implication of a resignation into domesticity. But he doesn't resent it. He has a temp job stocking vending machines. He went to high school, prom even, and made friends. He supports local businesses. He knows how Uber works. I actually do not really have a bone to pick with the modern iteration of Man Ray. I think he's really fun. It's different from his golden era self, portrayed by John Rhys Davis, and he's admittedly not as funny here, but there's a solid character here that still really shines through. If anything, I'd just like to see more of him. But where he's at his best, in my opinion, is when he's paired with the Dirty Bubble. Despite Dirty being the #1, he more than often lets Man Ray take the lead with the scheming. With Man Ray at the helm, you realize that for #1, he's kind of all over the place. Within how capable he is as a villain, as a person, he's scatterbrained and impulsive, subjecting Man Ray to his silly ramblings. Basically, he's the guy in the friend group who blurts out the most bonkers things and everyone just stares at him dumbfounded. And yet, there's always a sense of awareness to what he says and how it's just who he is and how he does things, where his priorities lie.
Oh, and make him eat dirt! In addition to the domination thing,
The Dirty Bubble is simply here for the chaos, having no big long-term goals in his criminal career other than to just be a goofy prankster that lives to muck things up with dirt and filth. He's an outcast, with no secret identity, no double life. This is just who he is, and he loves it. Though Dirty is my favorite of the two, I also love Man Ray a ton. I literally get so damn happy seeing them on screen, and I wish the fandom talked about them more. Because I don't think you all realize my pain. Imagine when it comes to your comfort character, you're in a desert of content, and the 3/4 of content you have, the big reason people bring them up is because of... Please just stop. I love these two goofers so much. I don't even see them in a sexual way. I just want to see them be adorable together. Within the post-first movie seasons, he showed up occasionally, and admittedly wasn't much to write home about. Just whatever, glad Pookie was there. But then with the modern seasons, oh boy. Oh dear Neptune. And no, this isn't just me saying modern season's bad, blah blah blah. They're fine, just not my personal thing. The highs are hysterical, and the lows are, well, oh jeez. Definitely the most all or nothing era. SpongeBob itself was based on a more slice of life foundation, with calm, fun music, and may I just say, probably the most memorable sound design of all time. I think my biggest problem with the newer seasons is that it went with a more Tex Avery, Ren and Stimpy route with its writing style, with tons of slapstick and over-the-top expressions. This would obviously tip me off because I don't like Ren and Stimpy, never have. But honestly, I think it should have gone more of a Muppets route with its writing, if that makes any sense, focusing on rather wordplay and character connections. Is this anything? Does that make sense to all of you? Anyway. How they handle Dirty Bubble in this new experimental era is... a doozy. A sight to behold, even. The Dirty Bubble Returns is a fairly good episode, albeit with some questionable moments. But most importantly, in this episode, he was reborn with a split personality. Huh? In his dirty form, he only speaks in rhyme, while in his new clean form, when all the grime is washed away, he's more bubbly and sweet, finally getting to allude back to his giddiness from prior seasons. But what's most damning of all is the fact that they separate these two parts of him. Sure, he gets some fun stuff to say as dirty, but the rhyming means that his complexity has been stripped away like a paint thinner on a tire, I don't know. They made it so that the Dirty Bubble, the dirty bubble, can only be a dynamic character once he is clean and not evil. That just sucks, man. To just rip off all of the most endearing parts of his character and stick it on a new part of him is just... And you can tell that this decision was a mistake because the next episode he shows up in, he does not talk at all. He just sits with a silly little face. That's insane. The writers really reintroduced him into the modern era, went, "Aw, dang it," and then gave up the next time around. Truly awe-inspiring. After this, he made a few cameos in the show, plus its respective spin-offs, and then, as of this video's making, we got a new recent episode with him as a lead. The Dirty Bubble Bass reintroduced him again, this time without the split personality, or the rhyming. How's the episode? Wow, if I had a nickel for every time the Dirty Bubble made an appearance in a SpongeBob episode, with the climax of said episode being that a character gets so big from eating that they burst out of the chum bucket, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but I fucking hate that I had to sit through it twice. Now, one of the underlying reasons I've wanted to make this video was because people seem to just get him all wrong. They think he's boring because he can pop so easily, or that he's one note, and as the anointed Dirty Bubble guy, I have felt the mighty need to set things straight. Look, Dirty Bubble is not just this. He's also this, and this. The only reason you may think of him as one-dimensional is that the show adamantly refuses to explore his other canon traits and just make him obsessed with dirt. And that's another thing. He's the Dirty Bubble, yes, but that most of the time wasn't literal. There has been a push to make him obsessed with just being mucky and gross, like using dirty dishes or chum or fat to fuel his powers and spread his villainy. If you told me to describe the Dirty Bubble, filthy would surprisingly not be the first thing I would say. Sure, he can be and has, but he's much more dirty in the mischievous sense, not the literal grimy sense. Him being obsessed with dirt 100% of the time may sound right, but it's just not. And I think in order to truly understand who he is, we have to go back to his original debut again. For the vast majority of the show's run, he's been voiced by none other than the GOAT, Tom Kenny. But did you know he's actually been doing an impersonation of another famous actor? The actor that voiced Dirty Bubble in his first appearance? That actor being the late, great Charles Nelson Riley.
Come out, wherever you
Charlie!
are.
I guess we're gonna start without him, right?
I guess we'll have to.
Well, he'll be in a minute. Here,
I couldn't get a plane.
You what, Charles?
I couldn't get a plane. This is Harry. He flies out of Staten Island, and we had terrific weather except over Arizona.
Charles Nelson Riley, with as odd of an upbringing as you can have as an actor, is an endlessly fascinating and endearing person. Being on the Johnny Carson show no less than 14 times, and being a regular panelist on the 70s run of Match Game, he's best known for his knack in character acting in live action, theater, and animation. He has an immediately recognizable voice, a nasally tone with a heavy New York accent.
Oh, dirty job, somebody's got to do
Look
it.
at Bob Barker. I want to be Bob Barker. Cold, hard, and gorgeous.
The ship is...
I said it 3 times. I said it to this woman and to this man. I take more time where the jewelry is better. Let's go, baby.
In his early career, work didn't come abundantly for him. He had to sell his blood to get by, and as an openly gay man in the 60s and 70s, people often turned him down on sight. It wasn't until he got his break in television that he became a hit, taking on several character acting roles, ones that the masses know him best for today. He loved to act and he loved to make people laugh, but the work he was most proud of was his directing and teaching in theater. So to fund those endeavors, he would take on guest roles in TV, one of which was a little role on Spongebob.
You cannot save them, sponge of mystery! They are trapped by my awesome surface tension!
Any MASH fans in the house? He was an acting coach for Gary Burghoff at the time of its production, who played Radar O'Reilly. More than anything, I love how unapologetically himself he was, no matter what. He loved what he did, and what he was able to bring. Being queer all his life got him used to being an outcast, as it does for many, admittedly, and that unique perspective led to the acting choices and characters he made. His voice, his laugh, and his utter joy. That's who the Dirty Bubble is at heart. If you want to know more about Riley, like his hectic family life, his early career, and even how he was a survivor in the 1944 Hartford Circus Fire, I highly recommend watching Matt Baum's video on him, as well as watching Life of Riley, an autobiographical one-man show he did in his later years. You won't regret it. His story, frankly, deserves to be known. Oh, also he can do this. Icon. Because Charles Nelson Riley's roles and persona are integral to the conception of this character, I've actually included lots of fun tidbits about Riley in my version of the Dirty Bubble. A while back I did this animatic, and do you notice how on his suit the lower buttons on his shirt are implied to be popped? This is a reference to a Johnny Carson appearance in '81, where he pops buttons on an ill-fitting suit and humorously tries to keep it together.
And it'll be fine, except this shirt's going back tomorrow.
I know.
How are you? I love you. We're okay? It's going beautifully.
The intent was fine. How have you been?
How would you be in this condition? All right, I'm fine. I always love to come here.
In this art where I drew Dirty Bubble cross-dressing, I gave him a garter, because in an episode of Match Game, Charles admitted to wearing them. Charles also has the ability to do a more conventionally masculine voice, but can't hold it for long out of pain, so I gave Dirty the same ability. I love adding traits like these to a character, where they're often directly inspired by their actor or their voice claim. A lot of the time, this is a great tool to make a fully realized character, taking their actor and playing into their strengths and eccentricities, utilizing things from a fully complex person to bring life into a fictional personality. The research, the implementation, it's very fun, and admittedly very fulfilling. Psst. Hey, Nick. While I've been fleshing out DB so much, if you need another SpongeBob spinoff, just say the word, please. Please let me cook. So with all that in mind, what does the Dirty Bubble look like at his best? Well, Charles Nelson Riley may have only voiced him once in the show, but did you know he reprised his role one more time?
I was just wondering if you wanted to hang out with me and smoke weed and fill our bellies with diet soda and play SpongeBob Lights Camera Pants for the PS2.
This is your standard party game, one where the SpongeBob cast all compete for the lead role in a movie. That movie in question is a Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy feature, where the two stop the evil, sneaky hermit from stealing all of Bikini Bottom. Yes, really. What's cool is that there's pretty much 6 alternate versions of the film, depending on whoever ends up being the hermit. I personally like Plankton best because, you know. Hearing the SpongeBob cast knock it out of the park as usual, paired with some really fun character animation, is a real treat to see. I can tell people had fun working on this. So where does that leave our special guy? Well, guess what? He is constantly paired with Man Ray in this. And the banter they have? Oh, so many established things get addressed here.
Taking on season homes from a rogues gallery of villains, including their number one arch nemesis, the Dirty Bubble. Booga, booga, booga. And their second most arch nemesis, Man Ray.
Oh, come on! What does it take to get to number 1 in this town?
With Riley's direction, it's finally clearer than ever on who the Dirty Bubble is meant to be and how to write him properly. For a big ball of air, he's in his head a lot of the time, the wheels turning, but never in the direction you think. He gets to scheme. He gets to take initiative. And yes, he gets to blurt out whatever is on his mind.
The hunter is hunting the jellyfish king.
Or maybe we're wasting our time. What if this hunter knows nothing or doesn't even exist?
He builds an evil machine, establishing himself as proficient with gadgets. He says comic book onomatopoeia when talking. He's got the old world Brooklyn mobster vernacular he was always destined to have. He likes cookies and herbal tea. Let's go! This is who he is, and this is what he was always meant to be. There is just so much here that makes me smile. Within that joyous, campy villainy, there's real displays of emotion as he feels out his next evil plan. Plans that remain low stakes and short term in this defunct superhero world, but ones that he is oh so good at. And as long as Man Ray is by his side, he wants nothing more. You can tell he really cares about him, taking his insults and his praise to heart. He may be number 1, but he always stoops himself down as an equal for him, listening to his input. The two work so well as a duo, bringing out the best performances in one another while hilariously stepping on each other's toes. It reminds me of a trope I'm a huge sucker for, male duos where within the same profession, they butt heads and try to one-up each other. Foils that know each other better than anyone, leading to some surprisingly sweet conversations. But for Man Ray and DB, you can tell there's this lack of competition, and the team is more of a situationship. This much care and attention for him within a party game is just unprecedented. We need to use these two more. We need to use him more. This portrayal needs to be the standard going forward. Please.
Now, if everyone will excuse us, this sudden freedom has renewed my eagerness for villainy. Come, Dirty Bubble.
Ooh, let's start with jaywalking. They couldn't possibly catch us twice.
All right. Time to sum things up. What can you, as a viewer, take away from this? Who is the Dirty Bubble, really? Out of everything that we've discussed, why do I like him so much? Well, thankfully it's short. There's just one word, even, that I think describes him perfectly, and how I want to see him be done in the future. The Dirty Bubble is a weirdo. That's it. He is simply put, at the base level of understanding his character, a weirdo. And I love it. This is one of those things where I can't say for certain where my love of it came from. Maybe from enjoying good fictional villains, maybe from being an outcast myself, maybe both. But I've always gravitated to those chaotic neutral characters, ones where they're not on the same wavelength as everyone else, but what they say still has so much truth. One of my biggest favorites is Uncle Fester from the Addams Family, more specifically the musical version. Just a bumbling, silly middle-aged man in an already unconventional family who to most spat out nonsense, but in actuality had a lot of great points.
Children are crazy and parents are quick. Passions are hard to explain.
The route they go with him always stuck with me. He's a lover, infatuated with the moon itself, but that doesn't stop him. The heart wants what it wants. He knows he's odd, he knows he's kooky, but that's also what makes him so special. I love characters like this, where behind their already endearing weirdness, there's true intelligence and agency that comes out in their own way, sometimes looping right back around to being the one sane person in the room. Fish out of water that can't help but have so much love for themselves, no matter what others may imply.
Who do you think taught Babe Ruth how to hit a baseball?
You taught Babe Ruth how to hit a baseball?
No. But who do you think did?
These characters often aren't villains or heroes, and if they are, not main ones. To us, they're inherent underdogs, but to them, they're just people. Maybe higher. But just knowing among their peers, and if not, the audience, that their presumed flaws are seen as strengths is always nice to see. Sometimes they're seen as the butt of a joke, but the real pleasant thing is that it doesn't really bother them. A lot of the time, they know how much others laugh, making their insistent individuality all the more powerful. It's sweet, it's diverse, and more than anything, immensely relatable and reassuring to me. Seeing all of these characters in their element and that being seen as unabashedly endearing, man, it just gives me hope. Hope that maybe one day I could truly breathe. Not with the usual anticipated shame or embarrassment or cautiousness or guilt, but just as myself. Long live the Weirdos. This archetype of a character that I love, plus SpongeBob being a huge favorite show for me, my obsession with him was comprised of the perfect storm. Like, of course he's my favorite. Of course I draw him all the time. Is he my favorite character in the history of anything ever? I don't know about that. One of them for sure, though. But the clause still stands, that for any character out there, in any piece of fiction ever, there is bound to be one, at least one person who has fallen for them dearly, for where it is just an ever-standing pleasure to see them, to think about them. I love that we as people that consume media, can have that. And for me, with who I am, to have one of those characters be one that maybe isn't treated with the best of care and intention from fans or writers, but one that I love to flesh out myself, one that's such an unapologetic, fun, campy weirdo, yeah, I think that's pretty great. I like the silly bubble guy. A lot. That's it. That's the video. Bye-bye. Wham! We did it! Oh my gosh. We are at the end again. I can't believe it. So, thank you all so much for watching, and this is especially for the longer fans of mine, those who have followed me for years and been like, what is up with this dirty bubble guy? Why? You finally know. After all these years, you finally know the answers. This video was years in the making. There's like an entire old script of this that I just threw out and started over. All I gotta say, I guess, is just we need more merch of Man Ray and the Dirty Bubble. I love them dearly. I want silly looking plushies. I want, mugs and shirts and pins and buttons and things. Please, we just need to talk about them more. And hey, if you're, if I got you in the door to ship them, if you think they're cute together, which you are correct, but if you want to do content of them on social media or whatever, the ship name, I'm the only one here, basically. So the ship name, or at least I was here first, the ship name is Bubble Ray. So tag your things with Bubble Ray, and that's the ship name. The other option was Dirty Man, but that is not very search friendly. Hello family, if you're watching this, hi. I don't know whether to say thank you or I'm sorry. I kind of laid out my heart in this one, very vulnerable. I took a lot of video files, a lot of video, audio, media files, a lot of things. Oof. If you don't hear from me from a little bit, just want to let you know, have a happy Halloween! It is almost a year since my first video. That is crazy. I didn't think I would get this much support and this much, I don't know, I just didn't think I'd get this far with this, and, you know, just more to come, I guess. Yeah, I have other things that I want to do, like I said last year, but yeah. Thank you, and, I'm flying away now. Woo! So, do you think they knew?